stunning looks, then swift.
The South African juggernaut continues. Netherlands? That seems like a distant memory now in this World Cup. 2-2 now for South Africa. This one being a 149-run margin versus Bangladesh at the Wankhede Stadium, which means South Africa now, having played 5, won 4, moving to 8 points. Thank you so much for joining us on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday. I'm joined in the studio by Shane Bond and Cheteshwar Pujara. Took a while. Full credit to Mahmudullah, but I'll just first tell you what happened in this game. Now, South Africa won the toss at the Wankhede, decided to bat first, and boy, oh boy, did they make it count. Didn't start well, but that's the beauty of the South African team. They resurrected it and then, of course, took on all 6 gears. 382 for 5 is what they made. Quinton de Kock playing his 150th ODI made 174. Klassen continues his smashing form, 90 of 49. And then in response, Bangladesh at one point won 91 for 6. Courtesy Mahmudullah, they made it to 233, 111 for him. Coetzee getting 3 wickets, Jansen getting 2 wickets. South Africa winning by 149 runs. That one big positive for a day to forget for Bangladesh has to be Mahmudullah, that 111. Did it tell you a little more about the South African bowling lineup, or just the fact that this was a positive for a guy, you know?
I think to start with, he batted really well. You can't take any credit away from him, because if you look at the other batters, they struggled, and he's the only one who was able to score runs in this innings. But yeah, there's an area of concern for South African bowling lineup. We saw how Mahmudullah batted towards the end, and death bowling is something which their bowlers haven't come under the pump, because they have been bowling well. They have been, the batters have been setting big targets for them. So whenever they come out to bowl, there's pressure on the opposition team. But as bowlers, it will be interesting to see when South Africa bowls first and some of their inexperienced bowlers, how they pull up in those games.
Then I'll tell you, it's 81 for 6 correction. But then after that, see the partnerships that have happened. 41 runs, 37 runs, 68 runs. This is 7 and below with Mahmudullah.
Yeah, but it's a 100-over game, and the game was effectively done by 70 overs. And it enabled Mahmudullah to almost have an open wicket. He was farming the strike at the back end there, really working towards that 100. So, look, I wouldn't read too much into it. There's a couple of things that South Africa are aware of. There's a few wides and proper wides off the pitch, a couple of no balls. So they're areas that they need to tidy up. But, yeah, their bowling attack have come out, and the toss has been crucial at Wankhede, where there's been zip, and that's at the start of the second innings. They've used it brilliantly and basically played opposition out of the game. So, yeah, they haven't been under pressure defending in a tight game yet, so it's going to be really interesting when they're in that situation.
If I flip it for you, suddenly conditions are not against you, but conditions aren't working for you. Is there enough in this lineup to really take out something and get wickets and attack batting lineups then?
South Africa?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think they've still got quality bowlers. I mean, even as you looked at their lineup, they're all bowling, there's 3 of them bowling 140 plus, 4 of them bowling 140 plus. They're aggressive with the short ball. They keep using it. I really like that. I just think that slow wide ball is a ball that's not being used enough, not only by South Africa, but all the teams. And we saw some success with it tonight at the back end, but it hasn't been consistently landed. But there's no doubt they've got 5 very, very good bowlers. There's a little bit of an experience there. Ngidis to come back in, but yeah, they're a very good team.
If you're
sorry to interrupt, but I thought Williams bowled well today, because he has just played one ODI, and someone who is not experienced enough to come out there and bowl like this. I was impressed by him. Obviously, when he comes under the pump, it'll be a different ball game altogether, but the way he started today, he looked quite impressive.
If you're India, New Zealand and Australia, and are you looking at that bowling lineup and saying, okay, see off that first 15 over mark from South Africa, and then after that you can really get a push on if you want to?
Look, if Ngidi is not back in the squad, if he's still injured, I think the 2 bowlers you just want to be careful against is Jansen and Rabada. They are their strike bowlers, and then you could always target the inexperienced bowlers. But yeah, I mean, maybe if you are batting first, you don't need to look out. I mean, first hour is an important one. First 10 overs, you just want to make the most of it. But if you are chasing somewhere over 350, then you have to go hard in the power play as well. So you can't have that target of seeing through the new ball. But you have to be smart enough.
Just going by how powerful this lineup is. Okay, so bowling is not possibly matching up the batting lineup. Let's go make 500. Come on. 550. Let's just go for it.
I think we're still underselling. They're a very well balanced team. They field very well. It's something that we don't talk about, but they always field well, the South Africans. And they play. I mean, outside of the anomaly of the Netherlands, where I think it was mentally they just didn't turn up. I think they got conditions that they thought would suit and they didn't roll over them. But they've smashed everybody else, smashed some very good teams. They're playing as well as India. So that matchup coming up is going to be a real, it's a real treat. And I'd love to see South Africa who like setting versus India who love chasing and see what that looks like. Either way, even if it's flipped, it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, because I know it's not mathematically there, but you're getting a sense now of those three teams that are going to make the Final Four, and one of them is South Africa. It's really coming together for them now, Cheteshwar, halfway through the tournament.
It is, and you know, they are very well balanced. They know what they're doing. They know how to start the innings if they're batting first. One thing, yes, obviously we have spoken enough about that. If they are, you know, chasing the total, and then how do they react? And it'll be interesting to see in the league phase when they play a few more games, when they are chasing. If they're able to bat like this, then they are a dangerous team. But I think they will end up playing the semi-finals at either at Mumbai or at Kolkata. Both the pitches suits them perfectly. I think if they are playing at Mumbai, then they are the favourite team. But if they are playing at Kolkata, which doesn't have enough bounce, that's where I feel that it'll be a big challenge for them.
Also seems like a very different unit from the South African units we've seen at World Cups. As in, if you get a blip, then that blip sort of takes over for a bit, hampers your chances. Then by the time you sort of wake up or recover, it's already too late. Here, you just woken up straight away, completely forgotten what's happened, and you started off wherever you left off then.
Yeah, they had a really strong team in 2015. There seemed like there was a little bit more selection confusion in 19, but they come in here seeming very settled. They've got a very strong batting lineup. It's experienced. They're taking a punt on a couple of junior bowlers, but have got some pace built in around some experience as well. The biggest tag that they've got to shake is that C word, the choker tag, that they can't get past the semi-finals. And the biggest one for that is, you know, you lose the toss and you find yourself chasing, and you have to chase down a big score in a semi-final. There's no doubt they're good enough to win the tournament, but it is something that plays on teams' mind of shaking that, of getting past. Once you make the final, look, it's pretty tough, but you've got to get past that semi-final. I think they're definitely going to be there, and yeah, they look as good a team as any. I'm excited to see how they go.
So you've got those 4 games remaining. Let's assume they're making the semi-finals, and you do that with about 2 games remaining in the league stages. Would you say, whatever the conditions, irrespective of who we're playing, we're bowling first? Just to get a sense of that.
They should do that. If they are sure of the semi-final spot, then they should do that, because it gives them an indication of how to pace their innings when they are chasing, how to bat according to the conditions, how to bat according to the situation, because that suggests that when they are batting first, they are a different team altogether, but when they are chasing, they are not good enough, which they would want to improve for sure.
The flip side to it, though, is, Shane, in a tournament when something's not broken, why try to attempt to break something? And when you've got flow, when you've got momentum, which is so crucial in a tournament like this, why break that? Just continue going the way you're going.
Yeah, cool. You know, you want to take momentum into the semi. The other thing is, this is a different South African team. There's different players batting in the middle order. And you know, the players who were there in the past are 4 years older, wiser. So it's easy just to pigeonhole them and say, you know, this is South Africa, they can't win. This group may be very, very different, and they've obviously got a very good coach. They've got a real clear game plan. They look really confident and happy. And so, yeah, it's once you get to that semi-finals, it's on the day. We know of the top 4 or 5 sides, anyone can win on that day. But if South Africa are playing like this, they're going to be pretty tough to beat.
He used the word settled to describe his lineup, and I'll tell you why. Quinton de Kock doesn't come out. Klassen shifts in for keeping. Don't see any issue over there. Temba Bavuma Azale, Aiden Markram slots in very easily for captaining there. Lungi Ngidi is not fit. The other guy comes in right now and he bowls perfectly well. So it looks like a very well-balanced unit. One guy goes out. It's not like the entire unit suddenly shakes if the captain is not there, or if the keeper is not there.
Look, it's a well-balanced team, no doubt about that. But they are just going with the 5 bowlers. So it'll be interesting to see when one of their bowlers are under pump, when they are not bowling well, when they are conceding more than 8 runs and over. That's when, how do they react? Do Aiden Markram bowl few overs? Do they have another option? I don't think they have anyone else. So I think how they soak that pressure is really important, because in a big game like semi-finals, there could be a bad day for someone, and how do they react to that?
Yeah. Maintaining vibe now is the main thing. You know what this team is possible. You're possibly touching what you can do, your potential in that sense. So just maintain vibe and continue taking each day as it comes now.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa have always been a little bit like New Zealand, very structured in the way they play. They play good, disciplined, hard cricket, and they've always been a tough team to beat, and that's and they're showing that. They've been like that for a very long time. That hasn't really changed, but they do have some serious X-factor players in that middle order who are at the very peak of their powers. And I suppose there was a little bit like that in 2015 when they had De Villiers and Faf and that group, and they just weren't quite good enough to get over the line. But this group is more than capable of doing that because they've got, as I said, De Kock's 30. They're at the absolute peak of their powers, and it sort of seems to be all coming together for them.
A word on Heinrich Klassen, Chetesh. We spoke about him, of course, in that changeover show. What a player! Oof.
Oh, he's an amazing player.
This guy will fill in stadiums just purely, and he'll get people to watch at the wherever you are watching it on your TV screens, just purely because of the way he approaches the game.
And he's smart. Look, he's smart. I think the way he approaches his innings, I think not many players can do that. If you look at the best finishers, some of them just want to start going after the bowlers from first ball onwards. But someone like him, he understands that he needs to give himself some time. He rotates the strike. He builds that innings. He builds that partnership when it's needed. And once he's in, he's unstoppable. I think the kind of strength he has, even some of his missed times are going for 6. But one thing all the bowlers will be looking at is, we have spoken about this, just try and bowl him outside the off stump, try and bowl Yorkers, just try and bowl on that wide line, slower balls, or we saw how he got out, slower bouncers outside the off stump. That is something the teams will be looking at, and how he reacts to that, how he, tries, whether he moves outside the off stump. I think he has to improve his range on the offside. I mean, the moment anyone comes straight against him, he's unstoppable. But does he have enough shots on the offside? We'll have to see that.
It's worth the punt, right? Because he's still going to go at you wherever you throw, pitch that ball at him. So you might as well go for it. Get hit a few, but if you get him, then that's the big bonus.
Yeah, it's just trying to eliminate the massive sixes he's hitting from pretty much dead straight all the way around to mid-wicket. That's such a power zone. We haven't seen any right-handed bowler come round the wicket to him and bowl into his back of his shoes or across the wide line, change the angle. And you expect teams now, when you're in a tournament like this, to be looking at opposition going, okay, well, it's pretty clear where these guys are scoring. We have to counter that. And if you can bring a tactic to the table in a big game that perhaps they haven't seen and be brave enough to do it, then you have to do that. Because there's some teams seem to be just doing the same thing over and over, and it's not working. And at the end of the day, you're not going to turn up and all of a sudden be 30-40% better. You're playing some of the best hitters in the world here. You've got to come up with a really clear game plan.
You reckon the real test for them now is Chennai? I think they're playing Chennai next in their venue. Low, slow. So, but you said this is a team that plays smart cricket. So smart cricket says you can't always get a 340. Chase that 280, 290.
I think they will try and do that because they know the Chennai pitch will be on the slower side. But we have seen in the last game when Afghanistan played against Pakistan, it wasn't a bad pitch. There was some assistance for the spinner, but if you bat well, you can still get to 280, 300. And that's where I think South African team will be smart enough to understand that pitch and try and bat accordingly.
Quinton de Kock, you just said it right now, a man who's touching his peak right now. Sometimes some things you don't want to do is, retire at your peak. And you just get the sense that now is the time for you to stay and really cash in on all that experience you've gained.
He is going to cash in. Different kind of cash.
Sure. But I'm just saying, here's a guy who looks so suited for this 50-over format. Can accelerate when you want him to, can really just drop anchor when needs to, and has so many levers to his game that he's perfectly suited to this format.
Yeah, he's one of the great one-day batsmen. You wouldn't necessarily think about that, but as I said, 20 hundreds in 150 games, averaging just under 50 at a strike rate of 100. That's, you think about the Gilchrist, the Haydens, that's better than those types of records. He's an unbelievable player. You also got to remember he started very young, so he's had 10, 12 years now of international cricket, grinding it out on the circuit. If he wins this World Cup, he's achieved everything he probably needs to achieve. And so his thing is, I've got kids now, I want to go out, make some money, tour around the world with the family and have a good time, and I think he's earned that right.
I think that brings me to the point of what England did.
Exactly.
We've been reading about multiple-year contract. Just try and make sure that your top players are not participating in all the leagues in the world. I mean, they should be participating in some of the leagues. But I still feel the utmost respect should go to the international cricket. You should be representing your nation. And that's where the cricket boards has to pay a little more attention and try and make sure that their players are retained.
I'm guessing you're going to see a lot more movement in that in this 4-year cycle now.
It's pretty tough because, the countries like South Africa and New Zealand just can't compete financially with the big boards. The English players are getting £1 million a year, some of the big players, we're not even anywhere near that. Our top player would be on £150,000, which you can earn 2, 3, 4 times that playing in IPL, or you could earn that sort of money playing in a big bash or a franchise, one franchise competition. So that's the challenge for international cricketers. The smaller nations, the Sri Lankas, the Bangladeshis, we just simply can't compete against the big 3 countries who can pay their players a lot of money and still have them play in their own sort of domestic competition or local competition like the IPL, like the Big Bash, like the 100, and, you know, so they're making serious money.
Well, they could also do something like what England did with Ben Stokes. 27, the World Cup is coming up. 26, we get in touch with you, Quinton. We want you back in our plans. 6 months of ODI cricket, come play with us, play with us, play with us, play the World Cup, and then back to franchise leagues after that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea either, because you want your top
He'll be
players.
34, because 34 is...
And someone like him, you always want him in the squad. You know, the top batter, the kind of experience he has, even if he hasn't played enough ODI cricket in 2-3 years' time, he's good enough to adapt that in 6 months' time.
Yeah, done. Okay, so we've done about South Africans batting, we've spoken about Quinton de Kock, we've spoken about Heinrich Klassen. We have to speak about Bangladesh now. And their batting lineup, Shane, yet again, let's forget that they were chasing 383, but just the way they started and how they crumble after that, it's been a repetitive thing we've been seeing for a while now.
I think 380 was always going to be too many for them, and I thought they, again, like South Africa, showed that extra pace and the night time conditions, the movement, the bounce, and they just overwhelmed them. And it was a sort of a combination of, looked like a little bit of timidness, and then South Africa being too good and effectively bowled them out of the game. But, you know, we talked about their best players being Mamadullah. He wasn't even in the original 11. Their batting lineups changed. They are the opposite of South Africa. They don't seem settled with their batting lineup, and in their performances really reflected that. Yeah,
actually, that's the word, right? It just seems so unsettled. Mehdi Hasan Miraz, one day he does well, next game he's up there opening the innings, one day he's back on 7. Mahmudullah is nowhere to be seen, suddenly Mahmudullah is in the squad. Shakib Al Hasan is not working with the bat, so everything seems to be just going haywire for them.
And look, they are quite used to changing their batting lineup, which works really well in their home conditions, but once they travel outside, I think you need a settled batting lineup. And they rely heavily on their opening start, because once their middle order is exposed to the new ball, they haven't been batting well at all. And they're losing too many wickets within first 20-30 overs, which, I mean, you are then, most of the times you are chasing the game, because if you lose 3 or 4 wickets within your first 20-30 overs, you don't have enough players who can bat at number 6, 7, and they are, I mean, I'm not saying they are not good enough, but I still feel your top order is your key, and if they are not doing well, then you can't rely on your middle order or lower middle order to score runs.
So all of us are agreeing Mahmudullah is coming to open the batting in the next game.
Well, it's interesting that when they had a good, like, he played well, Shakib was at 3, Mahmudullah was at 4, they were a little bit higher up the order. And you got to ask the question, is it because of their age that they're down the order, or do they think their other players are better? I'm not sure about that, but I get a sense now, if Bangladesh lost 4 games and their run rate's very low, that they're probably the first team that's been eliminated from the tournament.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe even if not mathematically, it's pretty much done for them now.
I think so, because it doesn't look like they can come back from this. What they should be looking to do is try and be competitive, because most of the games which they've lost badly. And next game, I know they would want to, as a team, you always want to win games, but even if you don't win, you should be able to compete, and that's what they haven't been able to do.
All the more for a batting lineup that's not working, that if you win the toss, you bat first, so that chase pressure is just totally out of your head.
Huge toss today. The only chance that I thought they really had today was to win the toss, bat, and try and get above 300 and hope that the South Africans melted in the heat of Mumbai. But it was a bad toss to lose, because we saw the other day, even against England, that extra zip and movement that the South African bowlers got makes them a handful, and again it was too much for Bangladesh.
You just look at the one end where Afghanistan is now, you know, slowly. You're saying this is that one tournament category that just be that you know, that boost that they really take off that they need. Bangladesh, that's been around for so long, is now again coming back to that Bangladesh of old. In between, you get a few performances, like the one they did in South Africa, but then again,
what they need is some good backup players, because they have this squad, but they still need some good replacement. They've had some injuries, and the new players are not good enough to perform when they come in, when they get the opportunity. I think they need better backup, and they need a pool of players who can, you know, even if their main squad is not around, they should be building the new squad as well. And Afghanistan, you know, they have that players, they have the talent, they're improving as a squad. But Bangladesh, I think they are stagnant. That's where they need to look to, you know, get better.
I always wonder, as a coach, what is that metric of improvement for a team like this? Winning one-off game, winning consistently, putting runs consistently. What is it? Because it changes so often. You don't really know.
It's a really hard one because at the end of the day, if Bangladesh played India every day, you'd probably expect India to win 90 out of 100 because they're just better. And so it's really tough just to say it's got to be on winning. You've got to have the talent to win first and foremost. And then if you get the talent and improve them, then you can start winning consistently. So they've got talent, Bangladesh. Some of them, perhaps, as I said, are just getting to that point where they're just a little bit past it, you know, some of their older players. But if you look at two of the teams who have disappointed, Pakistan have disappointed so far, Bangladesh, there's probably issues at the board level. There seems to be a lot of chopping and changing at the board level. Seems to be a lot of input, inconsistencies, board input into selections. There's always drama going on in the background. And that's really difficult when coaches are coming and going. There's issues about who's captain. There's different people having a say on selection. And when you've got that, it's hard not to affect the team. And it looks like we're seeing that a little bit here as well.
And it always plays out in public in Bangladesh. Even if things are happening behind closed doors on other boards, here everything is front and center in front of you.
I think that's how their cricket is. I've been to Bangladesh many times. They are so passionate about the game, but they don't know when they lose the game, they can't just digest it. It's tough. It is always tough when you lose, but you're bound to lose games. But how you bounce back, how you react to it is important, because I think it's always about that process of getting better all the time, rather than, when they win, they are at the top, but when they lose, they are at the bottom. You have to be stable as a team. You can't go through those emotions when you are playing cricket, because if you follow the process, if you keep getting better all the time, that's when you start seeing the results.
But like a roller coaster. Let's just show you that points table now, because that points table, you can see three teams now that are pretty much making their way to the semi-finals. And one of them is our winner from today, South Africa. Now, 5 games played, 4-1, and a total of 8 points. But look at that net run rate, 2.370. That is huge. And as far as Bangladesh is concerned, not the best of viewing as far as Bangladesh is concerned. 5 played, just the 1-1, and 2 points for them, -1.253. So that road to the semi-final pretty much shut for Team Bangladesh. Shane, Cheteshwar, thank you so much for joining us on this show. And before I leave you, let me remind you, if you haven't downloaded the ESPN Cricinfo mobile app, do download the mobile app, because you get so many things to choose from. If you're a cricket lover, follow us on our various social media handles as well, and stay up to date with your favorite sport, that is cricket. You were watching Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricinfo Matchday.
Stunning looks, then swift